Hey everyone, Sean here. I wanted to talk about Mortal Kombat, the movie that came out several weeks ago at this point. I know it's a little late, and I do apologize for that, but I wanted to still talk about some things about the movie from my perspective, and if I, wanted to offer my 2 cents about it. So this is just me, and I did watch it on HBO Max, so my experience is a little different, but I feel like this is something that's pretty much all right to watch on stream. Let's just put it that way. Although overall, I did have fun watching it, but I did watch it with friends. Like a lot of friends were in the call in Discord, and we were all watching it through the screen sharing and stuff like that. So quite the different experience, I guess you can put it that way. So we're having fun watching it, making fun of it along the way. But I think the good way to sum it up is the fan service that was offered here is pretty good and it does the job. But as a movie for like the regular film critics and I guess moviegoers that don't know much about Mortal Kombat and sort of like just not gonna go in with like certain expectations and such, they're gonna have a far harder time having fun with it or not going without critiquing the movie heavily because this film does have a number of problems. I think the one of the biggest weakness in my opinion, unfortunately, was the new main character Cole Young, and that's like the most common, probably like the most common complaint that you would hear from anyone at this point. You know, of course, that does also come with the weak writing that does sort of hold this back quite a bit. But with all that said, though, it was still a fun film. There's certain characters that were kind of unintentionally the characters that sort of we held on to more than what they intended. Uh, in this case, Kano was like the character that we sort of saw ourselves as sort of like the avatar, the sort of that connection to the movie in a way, the story. Usually there is that one character who we kind of can relate to in a way because they're powerless or just kind of like they're questioning things, they're questioning sort of what goes on in this world, the possibilities and how can this be happening and such like that. Kano was doing most of that, and Cole really wasn't questioning a whole lot of things. He didn't really have much dialogue or anything to offer to the table. He was just kind of like there and oh yeah, he has family. That's pretty much all I got from Cole for the most part. Um, the sort of the things around it I did kind of like. I thought it was neat, like how the sort of the laws within the this Mortal Kombat, with the whole Arcana thing, of how Mortal Kombat characters get their powers and such, and the law is that if you can kill this person, then you can earn this mark that pretty much essentially indicates that you have some sort of power within you, whether it's awakened or not. So you have that sort of right. So kind of there's that the mark you see with Cole. That's pretty much it. And yeah, so if you can kill that person, you earn the right to have some sort of power. And there are some things that I wished happened, certainly, especially with Cole. I don't, but I like to talk about that in the spoiler section of things. But the characters, for the most part, were okay. I would say some of them were, pretty good. I would say Kano was the best character out of all the bunch. I felt like he was the most preserved, while at the same time very fun. On screen, he like pretty much stole the show. Kind of would happen with the same thing if Johnny Cage was in there. Like I felt like he would have stole the show, in some sense, because he is that character. He's kind of always questioning things. He kind of pokes fun at things, and Kano was pretty much that character in this case here. Even though that looks like it wasn't the intention of things, but that's just what happened at the end of it. Unfortunately for Cole, anyway. So that is the case for our hero, I guess. And yeah, so he just didn't have much to offer. He didn't question things. He didn't say much. He's kind of just like, okay, whatever. He didn't really say a whole lot. He questioned some things, I guess, but not in the way that we would be able to start to sort of connect with him. Even by the end of it, I think it was just no, it just didn't work for me anyway. Um, so, of course, the other characters that were really good in their own right was Scorpion and of course Sub Zero. They were pretty much the best parts of the movie, and I think a lot of people knew that. Who were marketing this movie or who made this movie pretty much by the end product of it. So that's why you see the movie posters are really trying to hype up the two, Sub Zero and Scorpion. They really tried to hype up the rivalry, and and you kind of get to see why. So the rivalry is definitely the best, but they didn't really go over it a whole lot, unfortunately. So it's really easy to say that the best part was the beginning, and then the next best part was the end of it, like the final battle, in a way. Um, Otherwise, a lot of the other characters were pretty dry, unfortunately, like Liu Kang, even Shang Tsung, Raiden. Raiden kind of sounds pissed, uh, which could work in some ways, but he just still was not interesting for the most part. There was one bit of it or instance that he could have started to become interesting, but the momentum immediately died after that. The other good character was or fun character I would say was Kung Lao. Kung Lao definitely was Kung Lao. He was very arrogant, cocky, overconfident, that sort of guy. He definitely played his part as well. But I would say the most like best all around character still goes to Kano. He was still fun. He was, um, he was just funny all around. The delivery from that actor was great for Kano. The line from the trailer. Kano wins. That whole part was great. Unfortunately, there was those moments where you have the throwaway characters. They unfortunately felt very weak, and they were kind of just there. And that was pretty much the majority of the bad guys, with some exceptions, which I do find funny. But most of the other characters were kind of just there for the most part. Even Shang Tsung was kind of like in between. Like I said, he was pretty dry. I know there was a lot to live up to in a way because Kerry Tagawa did a really good job being Shang Tsung even back in the day. I still go back to those clips and hit those lines. Your soul is mine. That line like really sticks to me, especially with his face, what he does with his facial expressions. Right, he will always be Shang Tsung in my book. But even with that bias out of the way, this Shang Tsung, this actor, I know he's like pretty big, but I don't know. He just then wasn't given like the right material, or I don't know. Some like he just didn't have had enough of the sort of that fire given to him, unfortunately. So his facial expressions, his body language, just really wasn't all that there for Shang Tsung. Usually Shang Tsung is pretty animated too himself. He's not like just solemn, like kind of sitting on his throne and like that. He's moving. He's animated. You know he definitely delivers some lines right into the usual sort of more combat storylines. Especially for a guy who needs to steal souls to live, right? So to keep his like youthful appearance or whatever it is, his life, you know what I mean. So he has to be on his toes, you know what I mean. So you'd think he'd be a little more animated than that, but no, unfortunately, the material I guess maybe given could have been weak. The direction could have been a little weak on that, unfortunately. So he does say the line somewhere, but it still doesn't pack the same sort of panache that Tagawa was able to bring back in the day. Even him being old now, he was able to return as Shang Tsung in Mortal Kombat 11, and that's he still delivers, man, and that's still awesome, in my opinion. So, unfortunately, a lot of the characters you would look forward to just don't really offer a whole lot. Sonya is kind of Sonya. Jax was okay. Yeah, those characters were okay for the most part. Liu Kang was unfortunately pretty dry, even though he is supposed to be more on the neutral side of things when it comes to expressions. But even like I would say the best Liu Kang that I liked was in Mortal Kombat 11. He was very disciplined, but at the same time he was still interesting. He still had his own little quirks, especially with his conversations with Kung Lao when they're going to the Shaolin Temple, right? They were going through the traps and stuff like that. He has his own little approach on things, which is pretty straightforward. But he's still confident. He's not like you know what I mean? Like he doesn't exactly keep it on the down low. Like he still is able to bring something of his own to the table, even if he's on the same screen with Kung Lao, who is supposed to be the more like overconfident, arrogant kind of character, just because his ancestor is the great Kung Lao. But anyway, that unfortunately we don't really see that Kung Lao or not, excuse me, Liu Kang here. Also, I guess this is a way to go into the editing part of things, which is probably one of the most jarring parts of the movie as well. The editing itself could be weird at times, right? Because, for example, there are parts where one of the characters like remove the mask, put the mask on, take off the mask again. It's like, wait, what? Why don't you just keep the mask off until you're done with this whole scene or whatever? You know what I mean? So that was just very odd to me anyway, especially when I took a look back at that part again. And then there's the whole thing with Liu Kang with the sash, right? He keeps moving the sash around. And that part made the editing a little weird, unfortunately. I think it did. But anyway, there was also this like weird prop that was just like sitting in the background in the Shaolin Temple or whatever, or at least the base. Anyway, but it still stuck out. That's the whole point here. There's this weird prop in the background. Just I don't know. It just really does not fit in unless it was supposed to be like an Easter egg amongst like movie makers or something like that. But I'm definitely not in the known from that one. So otherwise, I just find it strange and it just sticks out like a sore thumb, for the most part. So there's a lot of weird things. The CGI was okay. There was Goro, and pretty much Goro looked the best he could have been, given with the quality of the CGI available. So I thought he was okay in terms of the looks department. His role was kind of just, he was just another jobber, which there's like a split amount of people that agree or disagree on that, whether he's a jobber or not, since he is supposed to be the prince of the Shokan or whatever they're called, or his race. But yeah, so easily the beginning, the ending, the last final battle was the best part, but the middle part was a little jarring. The whole like training part was a little jarring. The one really interesting scene in the movie too, besides the fights, was the dinner scene. The dinner scene with Kano. All the characters were there, and Kano, Kung Lao, and Liu Kang were definitely having a very fun exchange of words. Let's just put it that way. And that was easily one of the most interesting parts that does not involve with battling. So that we could have definitely used more of that, but really otherwise a lot of the dialogue exchange was just like dry or kind of just there for the sake of moving the story forward. All the little quips from Kung Lao were fun. A lot, like I said about Kano, he's easily the best character overall, and his dialogue was great. There was this one part that pretty much like you can definitely relate to when Liu Kang and Kano very, very for the very first time interact with each other, and I won't go into too much detail, but anyway, that part was really funny. If you really kind of think about it, right? But anyway, but yeah. So overall, like, yeah, the other fights were kind of like okay, but they were very small exchanges of fights in the middle of things. I really like the fight with Sub Zero and Jax. And speaking of Sub Zero, they really treated him like a horror character, like the monster in the horror movie or horror flick, the slasher, which I did really like, and at least to some degree. And the dialogue from him was kind of interesting. He did change out between Chinese, English, and Japanese. Uh, but it's all part of the ability of the actor too as well. So I can kind of see why it could be jarring for some people, but I kind of like was able to look past it. And he's an assassin, So a lot of the assassins are supposed to be like highly educated, so that's why speaking multiple languages and stuff like that is a part of their thing. And sometimes speaking in another language to a person who necessarily does not understand puts them in an uneasy state, So that's kind of what I think of it that way. So, maybe for some people they're gonna question like, why? You know what I mean? Why don't you speak the language that you understand? But sometimes you kind of want them to be thinking like, what is he saying? That sort of thing. That's how I look at it. So that's how I see it with Bihan, which is this Sub Zero. When it comes to Scorpion, it was really cool to have Mr. Sanada, or Hiroyuki Sanada, who's a very famous actor in Japan, playing Scorpion of all characters and of all people, him playing it, and it was really cool. But unfortunately, that actor doesn't really, speak English, so and Scorpion is known to have English dialogue, so unfortunately that aspect was lost. So some of that that nuance or that panache is lost. So unfortunately that does cause a bit of a rift. But I don't know if it's like a good compromise, because while you have a great this iconic Japanese actor, and he is Japanese, so it really makes it a little more authentic in that sense. But Scorpion, he speaks English too, so you know what I mean. So it's a bit of a weird case where you have this character who only speaks Japanese, and then he even says like, I don't know what you're saying, but but I don't know. It's just I don't know. It's just this little funny little nitpick that I noticed as I was watching this movie. So anyway, but yeah, without really spoiling things, that's all I can say. Oh yeah, the music was, for the most part, weak, unfortunately. The only memorable score that I can definitely say was during the final battle and, well, the beginning. So the beginning and the final battle really, are some of the most memorable parts when it comes to just the fights alone and such, because the music really reinforces that. They picked the techno stuff for the beginning, and then the you'll know what they're playing right around that final battle. So yeah, so I overall, despite me nitpicking at it quite a bit and saying a lot of negativity about it, I did have fun with it. It's still a fun film for what it is. There's definitely a good amount of cheese. They're definitely, for the most part, did play it safe, but unfortunately that did cost more weaknesses in that department. But if you're willing to just go in just to have fun, you'll definitely get that out. It does that job done, and for a popcorn flick, I think it's effective. It's just fun enough. They definitely don't skip out on the violence too. For Mortal Kombat, so that is checked off the list. They do a lot of the Mortal Kombat stuff. Let's just put it that way. And so those like little fan services are done pretty well. And so when it comes to the Mortal Kombat side of things, it's pretty good. But as a movie alone, it does get taken down quite a bit. So very very mixed, but I would say more on the good side for the most part. So as a Mortal Kombat fan or slash video game fan or video game movie, it's like an 8 out of 10, right? But as a regular movie, if you go in, if you as a regular sort of critic and stuff like that, if you really start to think about it, it really starts to fall apart. So that would be like a 5 out of 10. So I would say, and I gave this score previously in the Hypecast episode of things. I still give it a 6.5 out of 10. I think the best parts or the good parts are done right when it comes to the Mortal Kombat side of things. But as a movie, with its the basics of a movie are unfortunately not executed too well, and it could have been executed far better. Like the storytelling, for example, the movie character Cole Young could have been more interesting. But unfortunately, that gets lost with all the bad writing and the jarring nature of the editing in some parts, right? How the characters were pretty much utilized in some ways or some form, and the music was just there mostly, unfortunately. But yeah, that is pretty much it. So there are some things I wish would have happened, but yeah, it's still a 6.5 out of 10. It's still worth watching on stream. I'm not sure if I would say the same for watching it in theaters. So that's just my feelings on things. But it's still worth watching, despite all the negativity I was giving out in this video. So that's the non-spoiler portion of things. There are some spoilers that I want to talk about in the spoiler section. So thank you guys so much, and go ahead and see it if you haven't seen it already. And now we're gonna go into the spoiler portion of things. So stay tuned. Alrighty, so now we're in the spoiler talk of things. There is one right away. I wanted to get it out of the way. Me and my friends were watching. In the very beginning, there was a part where Cole was kind of interacting with who I assume was his daughter. And then, with the editing being so jarring, it made it look like he was kind of making out with his mom, right? It looked like his mom. And then, like, I don't know, like the dialogue and the editing and stuff like that made it look like it was his mom, and like I mean, I guess his daughter would have been like his little sister or something like that, but because of the editing, it made it seem like that way. So when they were kissing, we were just like, wait, what? You know what I mean? But it turned out that she's the wife. So like, oh, so that's their daughter, and like, you know what I mean? Like, whew, you know what I mean? That would have been a little weird, right? You know, that would have been a little jarring to have that sort of relationship already. Like right in the beginning of the film, like, oh, okay, but all right. I mean, whoa, but oh man, that would have been that would have set the tone quite differently for our hero Cole. But no, that was just his wife. So yeah. So it starts off with him. You know, he is kind of in the run of the mill sort of thing. He fights for money, tries to put bread on the table. And then you can kind of see where it goes from there. He has a mark. He's chosen for Mortal Kombat or whatever. So on and so forth. I really like the beginning of the movie though, with Bi-Han and Hanzo Hasashi, and with the whole fight sequence was really cool. With Scorpion like just using a gardening tool pretty much to pretty much beat most of the Lin Kuei that was there at the time. And unfortunately, though, Bihan got the upper hand in that moment and whooped his ass and in fact killed him. So, um, so yeah, so it also made it a little confusing of like the surviving Shirai Ryu or Shirai Ryu baby, right? It was apparently like his daughter, right? Hanzo's daughter that survived this whole thing. So she was able to carry on the line or the legacy. And here we are with Cole Young. So I guess you can say Cole Young is, half Japanese to say the least, right? So, but with the editing, it kind of made it look like, it didn't really. I don't think it indicate the gender of the baby. At least I wasn't able to pick it up. I mean, mind you, there were a lot of people in the Discord call, and we were all watching at the same time. So maybe the talking might have like maybe missed out on some little nuances, but yeah, I didn't really not know you know what the baby was, so I thought the baby was like Cole or something like that at some point. It could have been, maybe the daughter, like the little girl that could have been the, you know what I mean? Like it was a little confusing, and then later on it does explain that the baby is just a descent or an ancestor, or he descended from the baby that survived the massacre. So yeah, now it makes sense. But because of like how it was like put together in the beginning, it kind of like just made things confusing. On top of the whole sort of misidentity on the mom slash wife, you know what I mean? So it was a little weird. So and that was like surprisingly a common misconception with a lot of people as well, including some people on the internet as well. So anyway, so we go all the way to the Shaolin Temple with Sonya, Cole, and Kano traveling there. They meet up with Liu Kang, and then there's that whole scene with him shooting the fireball and everything, and Kano, questioning everything, like, how did you shoot that fireball? That sort of thing. That's impossible. And that's like the introduction to the whole Arcana thing. And then Liu Kang just like oddly kind of touches his shoulder like such a weird way, and then that's why like Kano was just like, what the fuck, like that was such, those things like that were really funny. But anyway, let's go all the way to them trying to find their Arcana. Kano and Cole trying to find their Arcana while they're training with Liu Kang and Kung Lao, I guess. So and we then go all the way to the dinner scene after I think it was like the exchange between Shang Tsung and Raiden, and Raiden kind of casts him away, and he's just like, yeah, he talks too much, whatever. And of course casting the bubble along the way. So there's the whole dinner scene, which I did really like because again it was like a good scene with dialogue exchange. It had a lot of character to it, a lot of personalities kind of brought out. You know what I mean? So even especially with Kano, of course, that was a scene where Kano finally discovers his power, which is the laser out of his eye. So that was funny. Like he's able to shoot the laser out of just one eye. You know what I mean? It's not because of like cyber enhancements or anything like that. It's just one eye that can shoot a laser. Nothing else. He doesn't do like the Kano ball or anything like that. No other special move. It's just the laser. So I know it's just funny that it just comes out of one eye. You know what I mean? Like, if you, in the grand scheme of things, how lame is that? But anyway, at least the at least Kano himself isn't lame. So thankfully, that's still intact. I just thought it's funny that if you really think about it, do you really want a laser coming out one eye being your superpower? You know what I mean? So anyway, that's the thing about if you break the movie down, it starts to fall apart. Anywho, Jax was there. He got the skeleton arms and everything, and later on, I think he discovers his Arcana, which is basically mechanical arm, the bigger mechanical arms, and hopefully the purple stuff, right? He got the purple projectiles or whatever, the the ground pound, which he doesn't do in the movie, unfortunately. But it looks like he does have like the purple aura or whatever. So I assume he has that along with that. So that's his Arcana. That I guess he also inherited at some point. Um, so let's see. So yeah, there is that one part with Cole after leaving because he couldn't awaken his Arcana, so he wanted to be with his family, which conveniently where yes he does get his Arcana awakened. He was fighting Goro, and then his family was about to get killed or something, and that awakened his Arcana, and I thought it was really funny because pretty much Cole's power is just literal plot armor. The more he gets hit by that armor, um, the more energy he gets from those attacks, and he can use that energy to pretty much reflect it back at the enemy. So he used that to power up his uppercut and punch the living hell out of Goro at some point. But he has the armor all around his upper body, but not so much his face. So there are some people that did point it out Goro going for the face first rather than the rest of his body. So it's like kind of funny. Maybe like the guys who were putting the film together thought it was funny or something like that. So maybe that's why they kind of did it that way. But I just thought his powers, not only his character is lame, he has powers to sort of match with that, and he has he also can bring out tonfas or Kali sticks, that sort of thing. And that's it. He can stab people, and that's all there is to it. Also, another person pointed out of why it looks like a weave like a woven basket. You know what I mean? Like a one of those like little rice baskets. You know what I mean? That you can shake and separate the rice and stuff like that. The rice separator, right? Looks like one of those things, or just any like basket that you see, from older times. And that maybe because, and someone pointed this out, maybe because it's like a reference to his daughter's bracelet that she made for him for like a good luck charm. So yeah, it's almost like it's like a reflection of his own little thing, and it becomes his powers almost. So I thought that was pretty interesting that someone pointed out, and that could be a theory, it could be true, I don't know, but it's kind of funny if you think about it. So also there is the climax, right? The big climax with everyone fighting each other. It's not Mortal Kombat, so there's no tournament. So, which that's not my complaint or anything like that. They're fighting, so that's what matters. But yeah, there's like a lot of people like Reiko and Nitara who got killed pretty brutally, and they're pretty much like jobbers for the most part. Nitara got her ass whooped by Kung Lao, which was definitely a flawless victory, which he definitely said with his the buzzsaw fatality with his hat. That was pretty sick, I must say. And then Jax performed his classic fatality, which is like the clap, and smashes the guy's Reiko's head like a watermelon, which I thought was pretty cool, admittedly. Wish it was something else, but maybe they're saving that for the next Mortal Kombat movie. But anyway, but yeah, Reiko was like pretty much the like a jobber. He didn't really say anything, you know what I mean? So there's also Cabal. I thought Cabal was pretty cool. Forgot to mention him, but he had the most dialogue, but he kind of was just there also for the most part. I thought that was funny when he said like when Kulan was dying, Cabal was saying like, oh yeah, he's about to get his soul sucked. The way he said it, like it was just, I thought that was comical. And then Liu Kang tried to save him, but for some reason Cole intercepts him and holds him back from actually saving Kung Lao, which I feel like that was just bad editing on that part too. I feel like it should have been, or it might have been just like a lot of the scenes were kind of mixed around, unfortunately, during the shoot. I don't know. Maybe it might have been hard to sort of try to fix that with through editing, but it would have made more sense if uh, Kung Lao already got his soul sucked, and then Liu Kang sees his friend, pretty much his, you know, brother in a way, see him be dead or get killed, and then Cole comes in and intercepts him and holds him back. You know what I mean? But during the process, that Liu Kang gets held back by Cole. So it made it look like Cole held him back from saving him and make him like a really shitty character in that whole scene. So kind of unfortunate, but I think the attention was for Liu Kang to try to save Kung Lao after he was dead, and then Cole, holds him back and tell him no because he's gonna get killed too, in the process, thanks to Shang Tsung. Yeah, and then there's that whole thing with Raiden, like he could have teleported and saved them and stuff like that, but I feel like, even though this is shitty, but I feel like Raiden is always that character where he accidentally gets his comrades killed, especially with Kung Lao. If you look at Mortal Kombat 9, that's what happened pretty much. So maybe that was the intention of how they were gonna portray Raiden, but yeah, it's just the way everything kind of played out. It made certain characters really shitty, but I feel like that's supposed to be their intention is supposed to be portraying the characters that they are in the games, but they kind of did it in a poor fashion, I think. Anyways, they're teleported to the void somehow, which they should have been there in the first place, but I don't know. They might have been found out either way, maybe. But anyway, they're in a void. They plan out their final attack, and they fight back, and the rest of the bad guys get killed. Like Melina, for example, who unfortunately sees her end in a very boring fashion. Gets shot, one-shotted by Sonya's blast. Yeah, it could have been better, but I guess to cut the movie short, they just they just wanted to just get her out of the way. This is another thing I should have mentioned in the non-spoiler portion of things. I think the use of time was poorly done. They could have used that time to tell more stories about the characters themselves, and give more time for you to care about certain characters. Instead, they kind of just focus on the family for some reason. I don't know, but I don't know. It's hard to say of what could have been a really good, effective use of time given the material. But anyway, the biggest one I really wanted to talk about was with the whole final battle and Cole's Arcana in general. I feel like instead of the whole plot armor thing, and someone else pointed this out too, I really felt like that Cole's Arcana should have been just becoming Scorpion, since he is the ancestor, or he is a descendant of Scorpion. So it made a lot more sense in that in the grand scheme of things, because of the way like they shot Scorpion throughout like the film. Like they were kind of alluding that he had some sort of connection with Scorpion throughout the movie, which was kind of an important thing to mention, but it was a little misleading at the end of things in a way, because it seems like it was hinting towards Cole becoming Scorpion instead of Hanzo Hasashi, or at least become a vessel of Hanzo Hasashi since he is dead, or aka at this point Scorpion. He would become a vessel for Scorpion to fight behind and get his revenge that way. That would have been a pretty poetic sort of thing. Like, you killed my family, I kill you with my relative through me, or whatever. It would have been kind of more poetic in that sense. That sort of thing. But yeah, that would have been so cool, and that would have been the excuse of Scorpion speaking English, because Cole, he's not exactly speaking Japanese or anything like that. So that would have been him speaking the Japanese, speaking the English part, and saying, "Get over here." Maybe Cole saying "Get over here" might have been a really cool sort of, like a might have been a cool way to sort of establish itself as a MK movie of this era or whatever, and made him a little more memorable in that sense. But the get over here thing, that whole part was edited. I think it was just a different take from a different actor, or maybe it's just a different take from Mr. Sanada, or I don't know, someone else in general. Either way, it didn't sound bad, I don't think, given the situation of things. So I'm okay with that. Anywho, yeah, so that is pretty much like my biggest complaint. That's spoiler related. Is Cole, he could have been Scorpion. That would have been a really cool arcana in my opinion. For Cole, he is the main character after all for this story anyway. So I feel like that should have been the route they would have taken. But no, he's just a separate being, and he just kind of comes out of nowhere with the blood of Cole. Again, the whole family thing, staining the weapon, and behind like, oh, that's the weapon of the Shirai Rai or Hanzo Hasashi, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So, yeah, so he kind of comes out, as a separate being, get over here, he does his thing, kills behind, and then there's that part with the mask thing, which he does first to kill Scorpion. He puts it back on, and then he takes it back off again to go talk to Cole. Like, why not have him just have the mask off the whole time, or that whole scene, and then put it back on when the scene is over, when it's done, and then he can go back to his little hell or whatever. You know what I mean? So maybe the next one, I don't know, like Cole gets his armor broken or something at some point, and then maybe he can become Scorpion. Maybe they're saving that for the next movie to make that movie a little better. But I don't know, we'll see. That could have been a really cool way to introduce that aspect for this movie, for Cole to just become Scorpion, right? That could have been really, really cool. But unfortunately, that was just not the route they took. Otherwise, it does set up for a sequel. There's going to be the Revenants, right? Because Shang Tsung does mention, like, death is just a portal to something else, blah, blah, blah. So you see all the heroes, or not the heroes, the villains kind of get sucked into the portal. So you'll know that Sub-Zero will become Noob Saibot at some point, and you'll see a lot of the Revenants coming back. So Cabal is definitely going to be one of them. Melina is going to be another one. It does make me question about Kitana, though, because her fan was shown early in the movie. So is it implying that she died early in the movie, or I don't know. Maybe it's just a fan that she gave and as a gift or something, and she's out somewhere in I believe she lives in Edenia or something like that, right? So she lives in a different world. So I don't know. Really hard to say of what is the current status of Kitana, right? We'll definitely see Shao Kahn at some point in the next movie. Yeah, so it's definitely setting up for a sequel. I definitely see it. Especially with Johnny Cage kind of being looted by the end of it, right? He's going to go pick up... Cole is going to go pick up Johnny Cage and try to have him be recruited into, the Earthrealm champions, right? So that is pretty much the gist of it. Oh yeah, we'll definitely see Kung Lao in Revenant form, so I think that'd be pretty cool. So, although he got kind of jibbed as a way of dying, so that is the thing of things. That is the gist of things, pretty much. So that is pretty much all I gotta say about Mortal Kombat the movie for 2021, with all the spoilers, all the major spoilers out of the way, anyway. So, oh yeah, will Reptile come back? Maybe it might be a different Reptile. We'll definitely see a different Sub-Zero, because it's the younger brother of Bi-Han. I forget his name, but yeah, we'll definitely see that Sub-Zero as well. So, but yeah, hopefully the next Mortal Kombat movie will see more improvements. That would be sick, and I do look forward to that. No matter what, I'll definitely check it out whenever that comes around. So, I think the success. Let me just look this up real quick. The success of the movie. Um, yeah, it made over the budget, but not by a whole lot right now. As I record this, it's like 70 million when the budget was 55. So maybe the Blu-ray will help things out, but it is streaming, so I don't know how much more sales it could make to the box office. So we'll see about the Blu-rays and stuff. They'll definitely have to pull some strings to get the movie going. Definitely won't be anytime soon. So, well, for now, I still think it's a 6.5 out of 10, even with the whole breakdown of things. And yeah, so that's pretty much the spoiler talk of things. Thank you so much again. Don't forget to like and subscribe. All that fun stuff, you know the drill. And yeah, so that's it for this video for Mortal Kombat 2021. Thank you guys so much. And so I'll see you guys in the next one. Sean out.